I'm Myriam.
And I'm Elyse. Two friends bound by the love of books.
Taking on the world one chapter at a time. This is the Book Bound Besties podcast.
Hey, Book Bound Besties!
Welcome to episode 3 of season 2 of the Book Bound Besties podcast, where we dive deep into your favorite books, have unhinged chats, and Elyse theorizes about what's to come because she has not read the book yet. Today we're going to be talking about Iron Flame chapters 11, 12, 13, 14, 15.
Yeah, a lot happens.
A lot happens. I had a really hard time summarizing and condensing my notes because
really?
I just thought that, and I think this is also very normal for the beginning of a book, but we're really setting up so many things, and there's so many little Easter eggs and things that are going to be important down the line.
Right.
So today's going to be, hopefully we're going to keep the episode our normal length, but
Yeah, it'll be exciting.
it will be
good.
exciting. Just a little content warning that we've been doing this season for our listeners. There is a lot of mature subject matter
Yes.
in this chapter, or in this set of chapters.
Yeah.
So be warned.
For sure.
Yeah.
I was actually listening back to an older episode because I hadn't listened to the podcast in a while, and I swore so much in one episode, but it was because I was so mad. Anyway.
I'm not sure if we label our episodes as explicit. I think we need to go back and make sure we do. So if you guys are watching us on YouTube, you may notice that I look a little different. Well, no, I'm just
Wearing a
hat.
And why are you wearing a hat, Myriam?
So, okay. This past weekend, my husband and I were in Toronto to celebrate his cousin's engagement party. And I had a small accident that required 8 stitches on my head.
Yikes.
So I have been unable to wash my hair, and it does not look pretty. So
You still look pretty.
thank you. We're keeping the rest of me covered, just, for your viewing pleasure.
Yes. But you are okay.
Oh, I'm fine. Yeah.
Yes.
I'm totally fine. I do not have any concussion symptoms so far, knock on wood. I was going to knock on my head, but that's a bad idea. My sister teases me, and she says this is just further evidence of my hard-headedness that, I'm relatively okay with all of this. So, however, in French, we do have this expression called jamais deux sans trois, which means never 2 without 3. And so on our way to the party, my brother calls me. All of our fire alarms were going off in the condo. My brother was house sitting watching the dog for us.
Oh my God.
Because the fire alarm unit that's in the ceiling
Yeah.
was leaking water. So it was setting off everything.
Oh, no.
He's freaking out. He doesn't know what to do. So I'm calling the condo manager. Turns out that our neighbors upstairs, something happened. I think it's their fridge that it could be connected to water
Okay, had a leak.
is leaking. So we've had a technician in. You'll see later when we go in my room, a third of the ceiling in my room has been removed because they needed to remove all the wetness and assess how bad it was and then let it dry.
Yeah, you don't want mold.
Exactly. So that's number 2. That's number 1. Then my head is number 2. And then yesterday we take our cars to put the summer tires on because we live in Canada and that's a thing. And find out that we need to replace the brakes on my car.
Oh, no.
So that was a $800 mechanic visit. So there, we got our 3. We're good for the month. No more action. Thank you. Goodbye.
Jeez. Wow, what a week.
I know.
My goodness.
I know. But on to brighter note.
Yes.
You
Oh, yes.
have some news for our listeners.
Well, news. Book news.
Book news, yes. The best kind of news.
Yes. I finished Crown of Midnight last night.
Yeah.
I stayed up late to read it. Wow. It is so good.
I know.
I seriously cannot believe that people aren't into it. I mean, I know a lot of people are, but I just feel like we've gotten a lot of comments of people being like, it's so slow, it's so boring.
Yeah.
Crown of Midnight was there's so much going on. There's so many things revealed. There's like betrayals. There's people dying.
There's romance.
There's romance. It was so exciting. I was getting towards the end and I knew I shouldn't read it in bed. But I was like, oh, I'm just going to read a couple pages. And then, of course, I finished the book. So,
what part were you at when you got into bed? Oh, well, spoiler warning.
Yeah, no, I had just finished because I half listened to it and half read it. Okay. So I've been toggling, which is really fun and a nice luxury to treat myself to. I had just finished the part where they're in the tombs and she opens the...
Kale's with her. Fleetfoot goes into the other world.
But not even at that point yet. It was like I think with the monster and what's his face had just ran away.
Archer.
Yes. So that was where I finished listening that day in the car. And then I was like, I need to keep reading.
Yeah, 100%.
And then I finished it.
So now you know.
Mm-hmm. And can I say, again, this is a huge spoiler. No, but it's not. I didn't call it because I'm smart. I called it because the internet is so not tactical about talking about this book. Literally never heard the name Selena in my life before. A friend of mine told me that was the protagonist's name of Throne of Glass. And I was like, weird. I thought it was.
Yeah. So, I mean, okay. Like if at this point you're still listening and you haven't read Throne of Glass, too bad for you because we gave you a warning. But so yes, basically, actually Rosebud's Realm, who I've shouted out quite a few times because she is one of the prominent TikTokers about the Throne of Glass series. Like she's a pro. She knows that series inside and out. She actually likes to mess with people and say that like, I mean, and it is kind of true. Selena and Aelin are two different people. Mm-hmm. So you can say that Throne of Glass and Crown of Midnight follow Selena's story and then it becomes Aelin's story.
Which is fair.
I think that because a lot of people... and you will understand this as you read the rest of the series, people love Aelin so much, and Aelin's character growth is so special and so moving and touching and all the things that people almost like forget about Selena. But Selena is a bad bitch. Like,
oh my God,
she's great. So incredible.
It was funny because I hadn't read Throne of Glass yet, and a friend of mine had started reading it, and we were talking about it, and she was like, oh, yes, Selena. And I was like, who's Selena? She's like, that's the protagonist. And I was like, oh, I thought it was Aelin. That's so weird. But I didn't say that because I was like, why did I think it was Aelin? And then I started reading it, and I was like, no, it is Selena. And then I noticed, I'm like, oh, people online always talk about Aelin. Yeah. And they only talk about Aelin.
Yeah.
And then I also caught on, they talked about attributes that Aelin has, and I'm like, is Selena the same person as Aelin? Because like they have the same attributes because they are essentially the same person. Yeah. Anyway, so I was a bit like, I wish the internet was more tactical about it because like I didn't want to know that. But otherwise, it was fantastic. I didn't see the betrayal coming. Like it was so good. So good. I loved it.
Did you cry?
No.
Really? I'm surprised.
At what?
Nehemia.
Oh, no, I was sad. I was sad, but I didn't cry.
But like the scene where she sings at her grave.
Yeah, but you see, I think that's where audiobook versus reading comes to play.
Okay.
When I listen to a book, I am not as engaged.
Okay.
Emotionally or mentally. Like I don't think, I guess I'm not a good listener. I don't know. Like
You're a great listener. Don't give yourself that.
But when it comes to listening to audiobooks, it doesn't get me the way it does when I take my time and read it myself. So I just wasn't as like, I guess, in that zone. Whereas like the last chunk, I read, and I was just like, oh, this is crazy.
That's so funny because when I read House of Earth and Blood, which is the first Crescent City book, I read it and the end is incredibly emotional, but I didn't cry. And when I listened to it, Elizabeth Evans, who's the same narrator as the Throne of Glass series, did such an incredible job that I like teared up.
Yeah, but you had read it already.
Maybe it's because I already knew it was coming.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Anyway.
Who knows?
Okay, snap back to no more spoilers. People could join us again.
Back to Iron Flame. Back to Bascaia. And Navarre. So last episode, we ended with Xaden going back to Samara and leaving Violet with a letter.
Oh, yes.
And that's where we pick up.
Yeah.
So let's hear our synopsis.
Chapter 11. Violet is still swooning over Xaden's letter. Students are being dragged for looking at the wrong, quote unquote, books. Letters to riders are being redacted, and personal belongings are being searched. It's clear that leadership wants complete control over what information the riders have access to. Are they getting worried their secrets will be revealed? The chapter ends with Taryn and Violet heading off into the night, Alloy in tow. A lot happens.
A lot happens. This chapter in particular, like 5 million things happen. It's insane. So the pre-chapter blurb comes from, we're going to need to talk about this, recovered correspondence of Lieutenant Xaden Ryerson to Cadet Violet Sorrengail. I'm going to read the pre-chapter blurb, and then we can freak out about the recovered correspondence, okay? Okay, so the quote is, Garrick has always been my best friend. His father was my father's aide, which in a way makes him my Dane, except trustworthy. After Liam, Bodhi was and still is the closest thing I have to a brother, perpetually tagging along a step behind. So the internet freaks the F out at the 2 words recovered correspondence, because there are so many things that this could mean. This could mean that because we know that Jacinia is writing the whole series, that Xaden and Violet are dead, which you have come to terms with as a possibility for the end of the series. I have not. I refuse. I will riot. If that's what happens.
Which is fair.
Like, I just don't think, I don't know. Listen, in fairness, I haven't read any of Rebecca Yarris's other books, but I know that she's a romance writer, and I know that she has no fear killing people off. Like, we know she killed off Liam, and actually she has fully said that she wrote Liam knowing he was going to die. Like, his fate had always been sealed.
I can't wait to like be able to listen to interviews with her. Like, once I've read Iron Flame,
once you listen to Iron Flame.
You know?
I mean, maybe I can find you some things from like before Iron Flame came out, but anyway. So that's option 1. Xaden and Violet are no longer. However, the rebuttal to that potential theory is, in this world, people's things are burned when they die. So unless things like traditions in this world change, which we don't really have any indication of that being the case. No, say what you were going to say.
It could also just be that they're not in Navarre anymore.
Yes, there's that too.
There is that gone. Too. So, yes. And either way, she has to collect the pieces to be able to write this book.
Yeah.
I don't know.
So, option 1, they're dead. Option 2 is that they become influential and important figures in society. So, the same way, let's say, like a president's documents are kept and immortalized in like a presidential library or something. Something similar could be happening with them, where their letters are saved and then kept for posterity and like history's sake. Those are kind of like the 2. I mean, I kind of know where you fall, but like, where do you fall?
It's so hard to say. Back when I had said it, I just wouldn't be surprised if the book ends with them dying in a way that is like for the cause, and that is what propels the cause forward.
She's a romance writer.
But then there's that, which I know usually everyone has happy endings and stuff, but I don't know.
Oh, no, I don't want to think about it.
It would suck. Yeah. I would struggle to read that. But anyway.
Like, minor spoiler for Divergent, but like I did not read the end of that series.
Oh, really?
Because I don't remember like at what point I stopped reading, but then I just read the Wikipedia for, you know how like on Wikipedia there's basically like a play-by-play of what happens in the book. I read it and I found out how it ends, and I was like, screw that. I was so grumpy and angry. I'm like, I'm happy I didn't read this book. I didn't like invest all my time in reading this story that ends in a way that makes me so angry.
Yeah. At the same time, though, like there's TV series where like people like sacrifice themselves for the world that I really, really love, and it's like makes it good. Like TV shows that I've watched that like people have characters die or like sacrifice themselves.
But
for the
main
good.
Characters, both main characters,
main characters.
That's not for me. That's not for me.
Anyway.
The chapter opens with Violet and Imogen cooling down from their run. Violet is walking off a stitch in her side. Who is this girl? Like, this is the girl who got winded going up the steps to her mother's office at the beginning of Fourth Wing, and now she's running off a stitch. If I had a stitch, I would just be like, done. I am not like running anymore.
You do have stitches.
Don't make me laugh.
I'm sorry. Anyway, who knew reading that? That's where we'd be today. Okay.
Oh, man.
But yeah, it is pretty fantastic.
Kismet.
It's pretty fantastic that she has gained that much just physically.
Strength and
yeah. She's worked hard towards it, so it's nice that it's like paying off,
Totally. She also cannot wipe the goofy smile off her face, though, because she is like thinking over and over about Xaden's letter. Mm-hmm. And she's read it so many times that she's got it memorized, which is so cute.
It's really cute.
The letter is all about him with heartbreaking details, like the fact that he used to sit on the roof of Ryerson House and used to like hope that his dad would come home and be like, oh, the rebellion's over. And it's just so sad, like little 16, 17-year-old Xaden, just like sad boy Xaden sitting like,
Aw, sad boy Xaden.
Sad boy Xaden. Imogen calls her out on her good mood, and Violet's like, oh, I had like no nightmares and nobody's tried to kill me. And Imogen's like, yeah, okay.
Yeah. But then she also calls her out on like avoiding her friends.
Yeah.
So it seems to be a common occurrence through these next set of chapters of
Imogen.
Violet. Well, just Violet being called out on her shit.
Which I love. I think it's important. Too. Yeah, I think it's a sign of a strong friendship that people are not afraid to be like, you are out of line.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I 100% agree.
So Violet is like taking it from Imogen. Because Imogen's like, don't you have other friends that you can talk to about this? And Violet's like, what? Are we not friends? And Imogen uses this line that I think is just so funny. She says, we're merely co-conspirators with a vested interest in keeping each other alive. And I'm like, yeah, okay, Imogen. This is coming from the girl who was bawling her eyes out when Violet was dying.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
You care.
Yeah, she totally does. I mean, she's tough, but yeah. I agree. They are totally friends. I actually really like the arc that they've had when you consider the first time they really interacted, Imogen tried to kill her.
Yeah.
So.
It's like another enemies to lovers.
It is. Oh, that's so funny. Next, Jacinia shows up, and she came for two things. One was to give Violet a book on the first six. Which,
this is the third time they come up.
I know. I'm like super invested as to what is in that book. Like, I want to know. And then also to ask Violet to help her translate a book from Old Lucerish.
Yeah. I listened to the audiobook for us.
Thank you. Actually, funny enough, just going back to Throne of Glass, thank goodness for the audiobook, because had I read the book without hearing the audiobook words, would have mispronounced every single name in that book. Every single...
How did you pronounce Kale?
Well, Kale I had heard already.
Okay.
I had heard the name, and it's Kale.
I know.
But even just like word marks and everything, like I had listened to the audiobook first, so that's not how I pictured them spelt, and all the different city names. The spelling is not, the spelling and the pronunciation are not what my
like
brain
Otterlin.
Otterlin? No way. No way.
Yeah.
Anyway, so Lucerish,
yeah.
The book is only 5 years old. It's quotes. It says that, which kind of means we can't trust it.
Especially because Jacinia tells Violet that they've been retranscribing. Yeah. So it makes things like a little suspicious.
Well, yeah, because we already know they're censoring so much, and now they're retranscribing everything. I'm like,
things are going to fall through the cracks.
Yeah, how much history is going to be erased in this movement? Like,
yeah. Did you notice that? So Imogen is very wary of Jacinia, but did you notice that she signs also? I just love how so many characters in this series
seems to.
knows how to sign. I think that's really, really cool.
Yeah. I wonder if we'll ever get to a place where it's more commonplace.
Well, like we were saying in one of our older episodes, I think it was the episode where Liam and Jacinia meet or something like that. I can't quite remember. I think that in this day and age, there's so many other technological means of communicating that I feel like to a degree sign is not as necessary. Like I could see how it would be, you know, when you see politicians or important press conferences, they always have someone signing. Like I think in that context it's inevitable. But I think that in interpersonal relationships, I think that there's workarounds that I don't know. I definitely see how a technological...
I mean, for day-to-day use, I guess, yeah, if you don't have people in your life who sign, technological workarounds make sense, but if it is someone in your life, then it's like different.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Actually, it's kind of like related, but not really. So our listeners know that I'm an accountant. My husband's also an accountant. And when we came home from Toronto this weekend, and we're just kind of both like not in the best place.
Yeah.
We were like, oh, let's just watch a movie. He ordered me a burrito and we just like cuddled on the couch. And he decided we should watch The Accountant with Ben Affleck.
Okay.
And I guess this is a spoiler for that movie. I mean, the movie was like fine, but basically the accountant, Ben Affleck's character, he has this like assistant, I don't really know, like a handler. And at the very end of the movie, so he's autistic and the accountant is, and at the beginning of the movie, he's in this like home or this like treatment center for people with neurodiversity. And there's a girl who's nonverbal in this facility. And at the very end, you find out that his assistant is that nonverbal girl who's working off of a computer that has like a voice to a text to voice, and like she's the handler all along. So anyway, it like gave me chills. I thought it was so cool, but also it kind of is
a workaround,
yeah, like I was saying, and really cool. And also goes to show that just because someone's nonverbal doesn't mean that they can't be extremely skilled and highly capable, because if you listen to this girl and like their conversations and whatever, like she's incredible. So it was really cool.
Very cool.
Okay, side note over. Let's go back to
Yeah, we're so not focused. All right.
I know, sorry.
Okay, no, it's fine.
So Jacinia, like you just mentioned, brings Violet this book that's in a dead language called Old Lucerish. And I think it's so cool that she can read dead languages. And this is a language that she and Dane used to use to send secret messages. And I know that we shit on him a lot, but this kind of made me a little sad, because clearly they had a bond. And it just makes you wonder, like, what happened or what changed or who changed. I don't know.
Yeah, he still sent her to her death. That's a hard thing to
But did he know? We still don't know if he knew.
Why did he say, I'll miss you? Why did he say, I'll miss you?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know.
Hard to let go of that one, Dane.
Yeah. Violet performs a translation, which ends with the name of an ancient king who ruled before Navarre even existed. Should we park this?
Oh, I don't know. Should we?
Jacinia tells Violet, kind of like we were talking about before, how they have this huge project to remove all the dead languages from the public section of the archives and translating them into easier reading, quote unquote. So, number one, if they're getting removed from the public section, does that mean they're still going to be in the private section, or are they going to be maintained somewhere? It just makes me think of things like, you know, I'm Egyptian. I think of the Library of Alexandria, where so much knowledge was lost because of this great fire. And the thought of eliminating all of these dead languages, I'm kind of like, is this the best way to go? Why are we doing this? I don't know. It made me a little bit suspicious.
Well, it changes. It could change the course of history, but it could also just like driving here. Actually, I was thinking about like history and how a lot of things have been preserved, or so we think. And then I was just like thinking, like, how much of history have we slightly altered into different perspectives just based on like poor translation, explicitly leaving things out, the perspective of the person. Like, it's so hard to be an unbiased like if you're 100%. A translator or whatever, it's so hard to be unbiased in documenting these things. And I was just like, oh my God, what have we gotten wrong in history? Like, as I was driving here. Anyway.
I don't know. I guess like so my mom still lives in Egypt, and I've been several times since I was a kid. And so I've spent a lot of time in like ancient temples and ancient tombs, and the ancient Egyptians were so good at documenting everything. Like, there is a specific temple, and I cannot remember the name of it. I'm like very embarrassed not to know this properly, but anyway, I can maybe like leave something in the description notes to make it sound like I'm a little bit better educated on this. All this to say, this temple is a temple to like a god of fertility, and they've got things like forceps, scalpels, etched into the walls to show the tools that were used in labor 5,000 years ago that we're still using today. So I thought that was really, really cool. And it just goes to show that, like, who knows, had there not been this interconnectedness of the world, like those tools, we could just not use them anymore because the world is so big and like unless
It could have
somebody
been lost or whatever.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
But because they documented it
Yeah.
accurately, we were able to continue using them. Like,
And like somebody must have visited this temple and like brought this practice elsewhere and just like how
very cool.
things
the world is cool.
the world
sometimes.
is really, really cool. Anyway, Jasenia is really excited about this project and this whole translation stuff, and she's kind of like nerding out about it. And because her and Violet bond over books and knowledge and all this kind of thing, she thinks that Violet would appreciate witnessing the work that they've done and the progress that they made. So she's like, oh, you should come to the archives and like I'll show you. And Violet's like, I'm not allowed. And Jasenia is like, oh, I'll make an exception for you. The archives are always empty on Sundays. So Jasenia is potentially an ally. We can already tell that she is more open-minded. She's willing to break some rules. Maybe we can pull her in the rebellion. She can maybe be the scribe that...
Right, which we already know she is. So yeah, no, it's very, very exciting prospect. So next, a rider is being dragged outside, yelling, and by, I don't even remember who, but...
Markham and 2 riders.
Okay. And Jasenia's like, oh, yeah, that's because he asked for a book the other day that he probably shouldn't have. And she's kind of like, I had to, like, record it, whatever. So it's kind of her fault in a way that this kid got caught for asking for a book he shouldn't have.
But I guess she didn't know that
But she didn't know that he wasn't allowed to have it. But then I'm just like, what did he ask for? I need that book now. Like, Violet needs to get that book now. What information... to the point that this kid is being dragged across the courtyard, presumably to his death. Like, we don't know at this point. Later on, we find out he did die.
Yep.
Insane.
Yeah.
So publicly, too, it feels like the world's leadership is getting really sloppy and panicky because we're starting to see the cracks and stuff, but something like this that was dealt with so publicly it's like...
but this also could be a warning.
But what are you warning? What you're warning the writers that they shouldn't be looking for certain information.
Yeah.
Meaning there is information you want to hide.
Yes.
Like, it's sloppy.
What you're saying is correct, but at the same time, if you think back to Fourth Wing, when Violet and Mira were at Montserrat, and Violet's like, oh, I think that they're censoring battle briefs, and Mira's like, yeah, obviously, like, stuff is confidential, stuff is, is classified, above your pay grade, blah, blah, blah. So maybe this is just them enforcing that. Alternatively, we also know that Major Varrish has come to Basgiath to tighten the ship, quote unquote. So maybe this is just evidence of him tightening the ship.
It also made me wonder, though, at what point is Jasenia going to stop recording what she's giving to Violet? Is she giving it to Violet? We know that it could be lethal for her to not properly record. Like, she could get in a lot of trouble for not properly recording the books that are being taken out. Like, that's part of their oath. But at what point? Because Violet is obviously looking into things that could potentially down the line get her into trouble. Yeah. So at what point is Jasenia going to like aid that and not record to help her friend? You know, like I think there's going to be a switch in Jasenia. Like Jasenia's going to catch on it.
Yeah, for sure. She's a smart girl.
She's smart.
She's following the adept path. So the scene changes.
Yeah.
And the gang is beside the gauntlet waiting to go up to the flight field. And Sawyer is struggling with his RSC homework, which I find hilarious because when I was in college, I had to take a class called canoe camping, which was for my PE credit. And I barely passed that class by the skin of my teeth. Like I'm not an outdoorsy person at all.
I can't believe you took it.
I had no choice.
Okay.
It was part of my program and it was even before school even started. So you show up, you get on a bus, you go to the middle of nowhere where you know nobody. And like you make friends in your program during that class. I did not like it.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was
I
not good.
wouldn't like that either. It's like Scott's dream.
I know. Not me. Yeah. I don't like boats. So the canoe part.
Oh, I love canoeing. I wouldn't want to like canoe camp though. I think that's just too much
outdoorsiness
for me.
Yeah. Anyway, Rhiannon catches up with everyone. She's got mail, and before she can even help it, Violet is hopeful that
it's another Xaden letter.
Yeah, a little letter from her broody boy. She talks herself off the ledge of excitement as she opens her unsealed envelope. And it's from Mira. Whoop whoop.
Yeah.
But Violet's disappointment does not go unnoticed by Rhiannon, who asks if her and Xaden are back together, and Violet's like, not anymore.
But then they have a really nice conversation. Like, I know Violet still has to censor herself a bit and can't tell Rhiannon everything, but she does open up in this moment. And I'm like, you see, you can talk to her.
You could do the selective truth.
Yeah.
And Rhiannon was so funny. She's like, if it's another woman, and she goes into like super protective mode about how she's gonna like beat Xaden up.
Yeah.
And
It's very realistic friend conversation. So.
And when she offers Violet the advice of like to get over someone, get under someone else, she looks at Violet's face, she's like, oh, okay, you're not there. You're not there.
Not there.
Yeah.
She has it bad.
Yeah.
And then we jump back to the letter and find out that most of it's been redacted.
Yeah.
The censorship thing, man.
I know.
I just want to know everything. At this point, I'm so have another 400 pages to go or whatever.
I know. It's okay. We're making really good progress with this 5 chapters at a time.
Yeah.
Riddick mentioned something about another black dragon in the Vale, which, is obviously Andarna.
Yeah, but Kaori noticed it, and that scares me.
Yeah, but I will just go back to Brennan said Kaori was a good man.
True. Thank you for flagging that, because I didn't think that. I just don't trust anyone anymore.
No, I know. And you're right to be. Violet tries to kind of get Riddick off the scent, being like, oh, maybe it was Taryn, maybe it was an elder, blah, blah, blah. And then Taryn warns her mind to mind that there's someone approaching from the left. So she locks her shields down in time to see Major Varrish, who may or may not have a secret signet because he doesn't wear a signet patch. And there's a sentence that I feel is there for a reason that we don't quite understand just yet. And it says, quote, the Major must be inhuman because there's not a dot of sweat on his high forehead.
And there's also a sentence later on that, anyway, we'll get there.
Yeah. Varrish compliments her on her strangle bruises. Then Varrish is like really sassy and rude, being like, yeah, I heard you were nearly done in by a first year. Good to see that the embarrassment didn't finish the job he started, but I guess you're probably used to barely squeaking by alive, seeing how frail you're rumored to be. This is so villain in like an early 2000s movie coded. Like I can 100% see Megan Fox like giving a snarky remark like this in Holiday in the Sun.
I love Holiday in the Sun.
It's first of all, great soundtrack, great movie, great location.
So good.
But like she was so snarky in that movie.
She was so good.
In that movie.
She was such a good mean girl.
She really was.
Such a good
Or like
mean
in
girl.
Confessions of a Teenage Drama Queen.
Yes, also. Did you see people want her to play Amarantha?
So, okay, sorry, this episode has a lot of tangents, but like, I need to just say this. Megan Fox is a beautiful woman.
Yeah.
She is so, so pretty and like conventionally pretty and like universally attractive.
Yeah.
In the book, when Feyre sees Amarantha for the first time, her first comment is, oh, she's like not that pretty.
Oh, really?
She says that there's something, she says like there's something that's like leeching her beauty.
Interesting.
So, like, not to sound like terrible, the fan cast that I see that I picture more is actually Sophie Turner. Because Sophie Turner is not ugly by any means, but she's not universally, conventionally beautiful.
Okay.
She's got like a little bit, like maybe it's because her face is super angular.
Yeah.
I don't know, but like there's something about her that I feel like she could play Amarantha. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. I see, you haven't met her yet, but I see Megan Fox playing Maeve way more. And like this is, if you go in the comments of a lot of these fan casts, they agree. Because Maeve is insanely beautiful.
Crescent City?
Throne of Glass.
Throne of Glass. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we will see then.
So Varrish is like, oh, I thought you had 2 dragons. And I was like, yeah. And he's like, well, where's the other? I only see one. And Taryn has no patience for this. He's growling at Varrish and like slobbering all over the ground in front of him. Obviously, this threatens the Major. Like, he's not dumb.
Yeah.
Violet and Varrish have this little tiff. And Varrish thinks that Violet has had it too easy because of Taryn. And I just want to be like, this girl has chronic illness. She has a target on her back because of who her mother is. She has not had it easy.
No, and she's
all.
proven herself time and time again. Like, she has come in clutch to save her friends. She has fought a lot of her own enemies. Like, Varrish sucks.
Taryn then tells Violet mind to mind, remind Varrish of my threat of like digesting him alone.
Yeah.
Varrish tries to bring up Andarna again, and Violet's like, oh, she can't bear riders, so I fly with Taryn. Then she says something that I really wish she didn't because I feel like it planted a bit of a seed. She says, oh, like on easier flight days, she joins us for maneuvers. Because I feel like that's what opened the window for Varrish to be like, oh, I expect to see her.
Right. He also says something about, he's like kind of taunting her.
Yeah.
And claims like it's suspicious that her dad was studying feather tails. And then Violet bonded one. And I was like, what do you mean?
Well, then Violet's like, no, it's a coincidence. And then Varrish
But
is
then
like,
I was like, wait, is it?
exactly. And then Violet's like, is it?
I know.
And Taryn's like, oh, I know nothing about this, but Andarna stays quiet.
And I'm like, it's so suspicious. I was like, wait, what?
Side note, it's Colonel Atos who told Varrish about all this, about the
Right.
research. So some people think that Colonel Atos is like a big bad. They don't think that he's just some scorned, embarrassed man. Like they think that he's really, really bad.
Like
Because
deep into the...
yeah, because how else would Varrish know about Papa Sorrengail?
Speaking of which,
Yeah.
Dane
Yeah.
comes in. So part of their flight class is to learn how to do a running landing. So Dane comes in to demonstrate it, and he does it flawlessly. He climbs down Kath's leg and perches on her foot, and then basically jumps up off her as she's still flying, which is pretty badass. And I'm like,
Yeah.
you suck.
Well, actually, if you remember during the battle with the Venom in Fourth Wing, Xaden performs one of these too.
Oh, does he?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just remember his lasso. I was pretty taken by his lasso.
Violet and Taryn have some funny back and forths about all of this because Violet's like, there's no way I can do this without like completely falling apart. Violet is standing next to Bodhi watching this demonstration, and she's hit with this realization that this kind of maneuver is completely pointless and that Kaori likely has no idea what's out there because otherwise he would be teaching them how to get on their dragon as quickly as possible, not getting off.
Yeah, which is a good point, and I guess kind of ties into what you were saying before, that Kaori is a good man. Like, maybe he's really not involved in any of this, and he's just as in the dark as the rest of them, you know?
And you would think that, being a professor who is, his, like, priority is the dragons.
Yeah. And he respects them.
And he respects them, yeah. It leads you to think that maybe he doesn't know what's going on.
Yeah. Then Bodhi and Violet are walking outside, and Violet is getting ready to go see Sigale and Xaden. So Bodhi's just kind of like walking her to it, and they're chatting, and we find out a little bit like at what the marked ones are up to. That
Yeah.
Bodhi is working on the next shipment.
He gives Violet a message, and again, it's very much, I'm not an owl.
yeah.
Because she's like, I'm starting to feel a lot like a letter.
Yeah. But then we learn that Imogen and Aya, Aya came out of nowhere. She just started being mentioned.
Yes. Was Aya at Ressin?
I feel like maybe, but maybe not mentioned by name. I don't know.
Okay.
Anyway, because I think the first time
Aya had to have been
name,
at Ressin because all the people who are at Ressin are the ones that are getting attacked.
So Imogen and Aya
Yeah.
are being targeted as well. So it's not just Violet,
No.
which is kind of scary.
Well, Bodhi, too, was attacked.
In the shower.
In the shower.
He had to fight naked. So funny. I don't know why I find that so funny.
Yeah. Well, it's because, like, I'm trying to picture it.
Yeah.
It's very vulnerable.
Yeah.
So Bodhi is like, like Xaden is really messed up over like the assassination attempt on you. Like he's super worried about you. It's like messing with him. And Violet is so freaking annoying because she's like, oh, I imagine if I dropped dead, it would be inconvenient. It's like, no. Then Bodhi, my sweet, sweet Bodhi, puts his likely enormous foot in his mouth. Because he's trying to reassure Violet about Xaden's feelings for her by bringing up Catriona.
Yeah. Who is she?
Snaps for Bodhi. Because this really was like the perfect timing.
I know.
To drop in another woman.
Yeah. So obviously Violet's like, who is that? And like freaking out. And Bodhi's just like, oh no, I stepped in it and I'm not going to say anything more.
Yeah.
Like, this is where you need to talk.
I know. He's like, please forget what I said.
Yeah. Oh. But then they're interrupted by Varrish again.
Yeah.
Who's like, stop right there.
Yeah.
And basically he comes to taunt Violet and to check her belongings to make sure she's not smuggling anything out.
Bodhi refuses to leave her side during all this, which I'm like, hard eyes, you're redeeming yourself.
But it comes out that he kind of suspected this might happen.
Yeah.
Which is the reason why he's there.
Yes.
Which pisses Violet off. But anyway. I mean, it just feels like, I guess checking her stuff isn't crazy, but did he really think she would just have like a backpack full of something?
Well, obviously he thinks very, very lowly of her intellect and her ability and all of these things. Like just, a few scenes ago, he's talking about how he thinks she's been getting through the quadrant easily because of Taryn. So he probably thinks she's had a lot of things handed to her, like she's a Nepo baby, which she is, but she's not because her mom has literally gone out of her way to not help her.
Good point. I mean, fine, good. Underestimate her. See what happens.
Exactly. Love that. Then he threatens her. Quote, since your Feathertail decided not to join you for formation again, I will be pondering your punishment for dereliction of duty while you are gone. Dun, dun, dun.
And it goes back to what you were saying of like how some people think that the dragons are in control and respect that, and some people don't and think they could control the dragons.
Yeah.
I'm not going to tell a dragon what to do.
No. The dragon will eat you.
Yeah.
And digest you alive.
As Taryn should.
Yeah.
It's time to step it up there, Taryn. Eat them. I'm done.
So this is when Violet realizes that Bodhi was expecting this. And then she goes, Bella mad at Jacob during Breaking Dawn. Screaming at her about using her as a test without telling her. And, like, obviously she's very sensitive about being left out and left in the dark. I get it. Like, she's got PTSD from this. When I pictured this, I was just picturing Bella screaming at Jacob, "You named my daughter after the Loch Ness Monster!"
That's funny. Yeah, it feels like in this case, that was something Bodhi could have told her.
Yeah, because she had a really great point. She's like, if you're going to use me, like, use me. Don't leave me in the dark. Don't leave me unprepared. Like,
because there's a lot of stuff I think they cannot tell her and should not tell her, but this was like a part that they could have.
Yeah.
And knowing how sensitive this topic is of her being left in the dark, like, it was such an obvious one to just not leave her in the dark for.
Yeah.
Anyway. What do they fly off with, though? What do we find at the end?
Yeah.
Important. Taryn is the one that had the alloy. He had all the stuff on him, and they needed to check him, so they fly off with the weapons. It's very exciting.
Yeah, it is very exciting. Anyway, the chapter was very long.
Yeah.
But I think it was really important for us to take the time to talk through it because of all the different dynamics. Like, we have Imogen and Violet, we have Rhiannon and Violet, we have Justinian, we have Varrish, we have Bodhi.
Yeah.
There's a lot that'll come back through the rest of the book. So
yeah.
Justinian will definitely be playing a bigger part in this book than she did in Fourth Wing. She's already been present way more. Varrish is obviously a huge part of the book. And Violet and the Mark ones are growing closer. So
yeah. Awards.
What is your most romantic line?
It's not a line, but just the boy talk between Rhiannon and Violet. They finally have a lovely conversation.
Mine is when she says, because I'll absolutely help you annihilate that shadow-wielding asshole if you guys were exclusive. And he...
Sassy and love-filled.
Yeah.
Funniest line. Healers might be all right, too, but I draw the line at scribes. Those robes don't do it for me.
Mine is when Taryn says, this is unadvisable for you. And Violet goes, for anyone with a heartbeat, about the running landing.
Oh, right. Spiciest? I kind of had trouble finding spiciest, but this is the best I could do.
Okay.
Now get in the saddle before they change their minds, and I'm forced to incinerate your leadership.
Okay. Mine was also sassy. It was, thank you. It was expensive. Cost someone their life. Talking about the bruises that she's wearing.
Yes.
Yeah. Chapter 12.
Violet reaches the outpost, which is rather quiet, only to find the riders in the throes of a fight club. Xaden wins the fight, and thus wins a weekend pass to spend time with Violet. They are intertwined in a heated moment before circling back to their fight about trust. We also get some insight to Alloy and the complexities of the wards.
The pre-chapter blurb also is recovered correspondence. And it says, Sigale watched me kill another cadet for bullying Garrick during threshing. She says she chose me for my ruthlessness, but I think I just reminded her of my grandfather. Because I don't know if you remember, but Sigale's former rider was Xaden's grandfather. So the chapter opens with Violet arriving at Samara, which we know is one of the toughest, if not the toughest outpost. They're high in the mountains, they're cut off from society, and to further illustrate how tough things are in Samara, Violet notices that there's an infantryman chilling in a cage. Yeah. What the heck?
Yeah.
I also thought I noticed a plot hole because they got there at around 8 a.m. and it was supposed to be a 12-hour flight, but then we find out later in the chapter that it was just because Taryn was highly motivated / didn't have to, like, he wasn't held back by a riot of other dragons. Yeah. So they made the 12-hour flight in 8 hours.
That's still an impressive shave of time.
Yeah.
Oh, like, that's
like
really fast.
A quarter of the time. Yeah. Taryn tells Violet that there's a drift of griffins nearby, and I found it really cute because he wouldn't let her out of his sight until she was either behind the walls of the outpost or with Xaden, who he still refers to as the wing leader.
Yeah. I like that he still calls him that.
Yeah. He flies off, and Violet's like, it'll be a success if I can block him and Sigale out. And I was just like, LOL.
Yeah. I found it interesting. I just wanted to note, like, we kind of see signs of, like, PTSD with Violet because she keeps having to ground herself and remind herself, like, she notices basically this outpost is built exactly like the other ones. So she's having memories and flashbacks of what happened there.
Yeah.
So she keeps constantly having to remind herself that she is okay and they are not under attack. And it just felt like, I was like, oh, like, you do see the signs of PTSD. And it's so scary because it's like, it's only been one battle. And it's affected her to this degree already. And, like, we know more are coming down the lines. And it's just so scary. Like, And just goes to show how much a battle or war or whatever could really tear someone apart. She's there. She gets to Xaden's room. He's not there. And she's like, what is going on? Like, and she feels a pull, like he is actually below her. So she descends and finds a windowless room full of riders, and they're all looking into a pit, kind of yelling and exchanging money, and it looks like they're betting on something. And what is in the pit?
A shirtless Xaden Ryerson.
Indeed. Indeed. We all like a shirtless Xaden sparring.
Oh, yes. So Violet notices that he's holding back. Turns out that they're fighting for the one pass for lieutenants this weekend so that Sigale will have time with Taryn and he'll have time with her. Violet is proud of his fighting and tells the rider beside her that Xaden's playing with him, and the rider recognizes her as Mira's sister. Violet is quote-unquote objectifying Xaden and realizing how much this turns her on. And I wanted to know, like, would you find this sexy?
Watching him fight?
Yeah.
Probably.
Really?
Yeah.
I once dated this guy who was like on the wrestling team in high school, which like I did not find attractive, but he also was into MMA, which like I think is like a little bit more attractive, but also super barbaric. Like he used to make me watch like MMA fights, and I'd be like watching like through my fingers.
I don't think I could I wouldn't be an MMA fan. Like I
but that's what they're doing basically.
I know, but it's different. I don't know.
There's
it's like
blood
casual fighting.
I don't know. I would argue
he's fighting to spend time with her.
No, I know. But like maybe she is like desensitized to the violence, or like I don't know, like her barometer has like shifted because of the very violent surroundings she's spent the last year in. But like I don't know. Like I understand why maybe it's like inherently attractive to like see someone fight because it like shows their like masculinity and like protectiveness and I don't know, like ability to protect, I mean.
Yeah. I mean, I'm going to say the most un-Canadian thing ever. I don't love watching hockey because of how much fighting there is.
Yes, 100%.
I have trouble watching hockey.
Me too. No, 100%. And like, I think it is so barbaric. Actually, we have a friend who plays in a league. It's literally a fighting league where people get their money back if there isn't a fight per period. So there's players on the team whose literal job is to step onto the ice, drop their gloves, and fight. It's insane.
Yeah, it's not for me. I feel like the only fighting I could watch and probably be like entertained by would be like wrestling because it's fake.
Oh, you mean like WWE?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like wrestling, I find like bizarre.
Like the theatrical.
Like
give me the theatrics. Yeah. Give me the ridiculous, like that is impossible, and I would eat that shit up. So.
Yeah. I don't know, maybe I would like eat up if they were fighting with like swords and you know like the fantasy type of fighting. Like I joked to Justin, I was like, you need to start sword fighting. Like you need to start.
We should go to the medieval. Being a warrior. Have you ever been to the medieval fair?
Have I been to the medieval fair?
Okay, so the people fight sometimes. Cool.
Do they really?
Yeah.
Shirtless?
Not shirtless. No, but it's fun to watch like sword fighting and stuff.
Yeah, I just feel like maybe if like I think it would be attractive if like they're fighting for like a purpose. That would maybe be the change. So maybe like what you're saying now about how he's fighting for the passes, like that's what makes it attractive.
Yeah, I think, I understand. Yes, I agree. That is the reason.
Anyway, she's appreciating his body and his skill and is just remembering all the moments like she misses him for. Yeah. And she admits to herself just how in love with him she is.
Yeah. I mean, she's basically forgetting why she was mad at him in the first place. Right. And I'm like, oh, girl, just run to his arms. And then in a super TV or movie moment, he notices her and gets clocked in the face. And it's like, it's such a overdone thing, but I love it every time. I love that. I don't know if it's not really a trope, but that convention.
Yeah, that he like got so distracted by her. And
it gets me every time.
Then she uses the mind-to-mind connection with him for the first time since Ressin, and she tells him stop playing around and end it. He complies. He wins the fight. And the rider beside her introduces herself as Cornelia Sahali, and she offers to tell the major that Xaden will now be taken off patrol for the next 48 hours. And because Violet and Taryn are only there for 24, he's like, oh, I'll split it with like the other guy, which I think is like kind of nice.
Yeah.
But I think also because we find out later that he hasn't been having the easiest time there. Maybe it was like an olive branch
or also just prove himself, like that he's there to actually work.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you think, so Violet is drooling.
Yeah.
And this next scene is very heated. Do you think it is at all influenced by Taryn and Sigale?
No.
No? You think she's that good with her shield at this point?
No. I just think that she is like so obsessed with him.
Okay.
That she doesn't need that extra layer of Taryn and Sigale to like influence her.
I mean, it's not mentioned at all, but it was just like thinking back to the last time that they had their first makeout.
So, okay, this is what I'll say. If you remember last time, there's this kind of insinuation that Taryn and Sigale did not block them out. So you have to remember that like the blocking goes both ways. And Taryn and Sigale will always be better at blocking than Violet and Xaden.
For sure.
Because like they're older, they have more experience, blah, blah, blah. So I think that if Taryn and Sigale wanted to block each other off from their riders, they would. Our lovers are now alone, and the plot hole, like I said before, is not a plot hole because we learned that Taryn was just extra motivated to fly fast. And being the wonderful and emotionally mature king that he is, Xaden asks Violet to tell him what she's thinking.
Yeah.
And can we just get a round of applause for the attempt at good communication?
Yeah.
As he's talking to her, she thinks to herself that he's talking to her in the voice that he uses when they're alone and quote unquote usually naked. But like they only had sex on 2 separate occasions.
Oh.
So like they talk as though like they've had this like whole relationship and like have slept together like a bunch of times. Yeah, well, I mean they've had sex more than twice, but like 2 separate occasions, like 2 separate days.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Huh. That's a very good point.
Thank you.
She just got it real bad for him.
I know. She finally asks him to kiss her, and the butterflies are back, baby. They have the most delicious makeout session. Like, you know what, listeners? I think Rebecca Yarros writes just as good of a makeout as she does a sex scene.
Huh.
I was riled up.
Oh, it was a great makeout scene.
It was so good.
Great. Absolutely. I guess, yeah, I don't know. We haven't, like you said, she hasn't written that many sex scenes, so.
Well, I mean.
We're 2 for 2 on both sides.
Yeah. Actually, good point.
Yeah.
So then something weird happens because Violet, while Xaden was fighting, thinks to herself, like a moth to a flame. And then here she thinks it again, but Xaden misinterprets it. He thinks it. So I kind of love this, but like I just find it's a little bit weird. So like when she's watching him fight, she is the moth, he's the flame.
Yeah.
And here he thinks he's the moth, she's the flame.
Yeah, but she's thinking the opposite.
Exactly. And I kind of love it because it's like he's so obsessed with her that, you know, he thinks he's the moth, but she thinks she's the moth.
That's funny. I didn't pick up on that. That'd be so weird though if she was thinking that he was a moth to the flame and she was thinking that while making out. That's so like manipulative.
Yeah, it's kind of like
oh.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Violet is ready to just do it.
Yeah.
But Xaden is like, we should stop. He knows they have to. He respects her boundaries. Swoon. Well,
basically,
swoon, but you know.
But basically he wants to put a halt to it because he knows that sex is going to help win her over. And he doesn't want that to be the reason they get back together.
That is like dagger to the heart. What a beautiful role reversal.
Yeah. I was surprised that like he put on the brakes and that was the reason and everything.
Yeah.
And I was just like, oh my God.
And when he tells her, quote, "You still don't trust me, and that's all right. I told you I'm not in this for a battle. I'm winning the damn war. I'm a fucking fool for saying this, but when haven't I been a fool when it comes to you?" Xaden, get me a fan. That is like, you know what? Like that's the stuff that gets to me more than like anything dirty he could say. It's like when he
I was about to say the same thing.
Right.
I was literally just as you were reading it, I'm like, you see, that is way better than the dirty talk.
Yeah.
Because like some of the dirty talk lines like fall a bit flat.
Okay.
For me anyway. But moments like that, I'm like, my heart.
Like I this is a trend, I said this in Fourth Wing and I'm going to keep saying this. I love a traditionally masculine man simping for like a little girl. He tells her that he'll kiss her whenever she wants because if they kiss whenever he wants, they will be permanently attached at the mouth. Then he says, quote, "I'm begging you, Violet, don't offer me your body unless you're willing to offer me everything." I know. She finally realizes that the 3 little words that he mentioned like last time they got together were not "I need you." They were "I love you."
3 little words is always "I love you."
Yeah, has nobody watched Gossip Girl?
Oh my God, that scene in Gossip Girl.
I know,
though.
Chuck Bass.
I can't. My heart. That scene, I have watched that scene many times.
Have you really?
Yeah. Because it comes up in clips on like TikTok, and every time it comes up, I'm like, I'm gonna watch it again.
Yeah.
Oh, so good. Anyway, then Violet's kind of just like, yeah, we could just like have sex. These 2 cannot just have sex.
No, they love each other.
Yeah, she's so silly.
I know.
There's no way, Violet. There is no way you can handle that. There is no way. There's no way we can handle that. Anyway.
But you know what? I actually like as a reader, I'm really frustrated, and I wish he did not have such high morals and he weren't so noble. But for the sake of the book and the storytelling and whatever, and also just like as a human being, I think it's really awesome that this is his perspective.
Yeah, for it to be coming from the guy too.
Yeah. Basically, Xaden like ends this conversation by saying, quote, "Last year, I would have used any method it took to win you back. But for those 3 days when you were unconscious, all I did was sit there and watch you sleep, thinking of everything I would have done differently. This is me doing things differently." And this is the equivalent of pouring a bucket of ice cold water on their lust. He offers to go get her food while she gets cleaned up in his private bathing chamber because apparently nobody wants to share space with him because of his dad. And I'm like, poor sad boy Xaden.
Like it is sad, but at the same time, like if I were him, I'd be so happy to just have my own quarters.
Yeah, it's a great perk.
They clean up, they eat, they chill. They're like kind of just back in a little routine. He's sharpening his weapon. She's brushing her hair, which we all know does things to him. It's a nice moment. And then we get a lesson in wards and alloy.
Yeah.
My goodness, Rebecca, could you have picked a more complicated
magic system?
Oh my God, I had to read it multiple times. I was like, are you kidding me right now? Anyway, let's see if I got this right.
Okay, let's hear it.
I was so annoyed. So not only does the weapon need to be made of alloy, which we know, it takes a dragon to fire a crucible and then a luminary to intensify that fire hot enough to smelt the alloy into a weapon. But no, it does not end there. We then need the weapons to be imbued with power from the dragon riders.
And not all dragon riders are capable of doing this.
Not everyone's capable of doing this. And that is what boosts the wards, which the wards themselves originate from the Veil in Besgaeth, and we don't really know what they are. So basically these weapons are just like extension cords for the wards.
So I'll tell you, the Veil just holds an incredible amount of power. That's what powers everything.
It was just very, very... Oh, and hold on.
Yeah?
There's a shelf life to this power.
Yes.
You have to recharge all your weapons.
Re-imbue it.
Regularly. No wonder their shit's failing. My God, it's so complicated.
Yeah. Well, listen, we're going to learn a lot more about the wards throughout this book, so don't worry.
No, I mean, like, I get it, but I had to read it multiple times and then, like, list it out. It's very, very confusing. The chapter ends with them practicing keeping her shields up.
That was a very good
explanation of it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Took a second to wrap my brain around that one.
Let's do some awards.
Let's.
What is your most romantic line?
Oh, I put a really big chunk.
Okay.
Maybe it's toxic as hell, but it's pointless to deny every single part of me is attracted to every facet of Xaden. It's not just his body. It's everything. Even the darkest parts of him, parts I know are merciless, willing to annihilate anyone and everyone who stands between him and a goal. Pull me like a moth to a fucking flame.
Mine is, I want you more than my next breath, but I can't fuck you into looking at me like you used to. I refuse to use sex as a tool to get you back. Not when I want to be here. And he's like looking at his heart.
So noble.
I know.
Funniest line.
I didn't have one.
Pretty sure dumping a bucket of snowy slush from the nearby peaks over my head couldn't lessen the heat either.
Okay.
Kind of funny.
What's your spiciest line?
Energy arcs between us, hotter with every kiss, every flick of his tongue. Flames of need dance across my skin, leaving chills in their wake before settling deep within me, burning dangerously, reminding me that Xaden knows exactly how to sate this unquenchable desire.
Wow.
Heated.
Yeah. And mine is when he says, you have no idea how badly I want to peel these pants off your amazing ass and fuck you until you're hoarse from screaming my name, so limp from orgasms that you can't fathom leaving my bed ever again. And every tree around here goes up in flames from lightning strikes until you remember exactly how good we are together.
Damn.
How is that not the spiciest line?
I mean, no, you're right. It's spicy. I don't know. I just, like, my brain glosses over that, I think. Chapter 13. We finally witness the wrath of Varrish and his power-hungry ways as he forces Violet to wield to the brink of burning out. Taryn and her friends save her from exhaustion, but staying out of Varrish's way will be a difficult task. The chapter ends with the crew being knocked out as bags are thrown over their heads. It's really funny. Like, every time I read a summary, I'm like, oh yeah, that's what it was about.
Yeah, it serves a purpose. The pre-chapter blurb comes from Article 5, Section 7 of the Dragon Riders Codex, and it says, though the chain of command may be consulted, the final say in any academic punishment or repercussion lies with the commandant's office.
And she gets punished, all right.
Yeah, so the chapter opens, and basically Taryn's like, we're being called to the practice grounds where Carr and Varrish are waiting. Dum, dum, dum. We know something bad's gonna happen.
Yeah.
And Taryn gives her the choice of, like, how to move forward.
Yeah.
And Violet's like, we don't really have a choice. Like, we kind of have to deal with this because we need to do whatever it takes to keep Andarna safe, because it's more than just Andarna. It's all Feathertails.
I love that she, in this part, like this whole thing, puts the dragon's needs before herself.
Yeah.
Like, she's doing everything she can to try to protect, like, dragonkind.
Yeah.
I mean, and almost dies because of it, but I thought it was very nice.
Yeah. So her punishment is wielding beyond the point she ever has before. And she keeps reminding herself that this is but a warning. This is not true punishment, which is really scary.
Can you get worse than literally almost dying?
Yeah, you can. Dying. So basically, if she does not keep wielding, Varrish is threatening her with the brig, which is like the dungeons or like the prison.
Are we on Pirates of the Caribbean? Like, it's just, we haven't heard of it before.
Have we not?
I don't think so.
She's made it to strike number 32 when her struggle wakes Andarna, and we find out that waking during the dreamless sleep could be dangerous to the growth process, but she's already awoken multiple times, so this is something to remember.
Yeah.
There will be consequences.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Little Andarna.
Well, she's not so little anymore.
Well, she will forever be our little golden snitch.
With legs.
With legs.
So Professor Carr starts pushing back against Varrish. He's worried that she's going to burn out. And there's a sentence I want us to park once more for later. Varrish says that Violet can take it just fine. And she thinks to herself,
Yup.
he looks at me like he knows. Like he was there at Ressin watching me hurl bolt after bolt at the wyvern.
Was he there?
I don't know.
Is he the sage?
I don't know.
What's his signet?
I don't know.
Oh my God.
Is this the sentence you wanted to come back to?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, because when I read that, I was losing my mind. Because I was like, basically, it's either he was there and he witnessed the whole thing. And if that is the case, is he actually part Venin of sorts or somehow?
I don't think he could be part Venin.
Or involved with them somehow.
Yeah.
And then if not, then my second thought was like, what's his signet? Because like, can he see other people's memories or have some sort of like fortune telling, like to have been able to witness it through a third party or something, because we don't actually know what a signet is. So I lost my mind reading that.
Well, so actually I've seen theories that he could actually, and like this theory makes ish sense because later on in their conversation, she thinks the word barbaric and then he uses the word barbaric.
Exactly.
So some people are like, does he have some sort of like intrinsic ability, which like you would maybe believe based on that use of the same word twice.
Yeah.
But then at the same time, you're like, if he was intrinsic, he would be dead.
Well, not if you could hide it.
Yeah, okay, that's true.
Because I also wrote the barbaric. I just, this whole section just raised so many questions. And I'm like, oh my goodness.
Yeah. So Taryn decides that they've had enough. And so does Carr. He says, quote, if she dies, you will summon the wrath of not only General Sorrengail, but General Melgren. Her signet is the weapon generals dream of in this war. And if that's not enough to encourage a degree of caution, Vice Commandant, then remember her death will cost you 2 of the most powerful dragons on the continent and Lieutenant Ryerson's irreplaceable ability to wield shadows.
I mean, it's annoying because it's through the perspective of like
weaponry.
Not seeing them as people, but like he does save her life essentially in that moment. But
but just to big dog, Varrish insists on one more strike. And she does. She loses control. Carr's like, okay, like we're done here. And Varrish, I literally just want to punch him in his stupid, ugly face. He says, quote, fascinating. You'll both be indispensable once you come to heal. This is the only warning you'll get, Cadet Sorrengail.
I was like, she's not a dog.
I literally was like, I need to take a lap. It's just...
He's a great villain.
Yeah, he is. But it's just such dehumanizing vocabulary.
I know.
Okay, so she has now completely collapsed. Taryn claw lifts her into the air and drops her into the river outside of the school. And the ice cold water forces the heat from her. But she's just in so much pain from the near burnout. And remember, this is a girl who is well versed in pain.
Yeah.
She knows how to handle it, knows how to compartmentalize it. And she's like, I have never felt agony like this before.
For sure. I mean, she is like pushed to the brink. And we know like riders have lost their lives for going through this. And going too far. So it's just like, it's really scary. And then she's like, she was heated. Now she's freezing. Her body doesn't know what's going on. Like she's exhausted. Her friends come over because Taryn warned their dragons and through telephone. Imogen, Bodhi, and Aya are there and they give her a blanket and they make sure she's fed and they save her, essentially, or help in saving her. Varrish is such a monster. He's awful.
I know. He's
like, this is just the beginning. Like, I'm so...
Be scared.
I am scared. I am scared.
Well, because you have to remember, in episode 1, we read one of the pre-chapter blurbs was talking about how he's so brutal that he was like kicked out of an outpost. And out of Samara, which is the outpost Xaden is at, which is known to be the most brutal one. So he got kicked out of the most brutal outpost. But it's okay. We're going to have him deal with students now.
Yeah. I mean, we have talked about pedagogy. It's not true. Ideal. What are they going to do about it in Darna? Like,
they're going to keep protecting her.
Yeah,
they
but
have no
Varrish
choice.
is literally going to kill her. Like, not in Darna, Violet.
I got so weepy.
Okay.
At this part because Violet is gathering herself when she notices the tree. The tree.
Yes.
And she turns to Bodhi and she's like, I miss Xaden. And Bodhi's like, I miss him too.
I know.
But it was just like whelp.
Yeah.
It was really cute. Anyway, it's the tree that like they first interacted at. Well, it's not their first interaction, but like their first like alone interaction.
Well, when she first sees the marked ones.
Yeah, exactly.
And then,
Yeah.
It's a great interaction.
I know.
So we move along. We're in the sparring gym. The squad is putting in extra time for on the mat. Sloane still sucks. We see a new kid, Jay's sick, and he's super angry.
Yeah.
Because it turns out he's the younger brother of the kid who got pulled away screaming, who we find out was killed.
Beaten to death. Found in his room.
What was he reading? I just want to know. Hope we find out later on what book he had and the information in it, because it's worth killing over.
Right. And this prompts Imogen to warn once again against Jesinia. She really, really does not trust scribes.
But it was so indirect. Like, Jesinia was just doing her job. She didn't know. But that's kind of what I was saying before, is like, at what point is Jesinia going to catch on and be like, oh, wait a minute. Something's going on here. I need to be careful. I need to cheat the system. I need to help them out. Like, anyway, I'm excited to see her arc a little bit.
Yeah. So I actually, last episode, mispronounced a name.
Oh.
It's Arik, not Eric. So Arik joins them, and he's like, weren't the Mark ones all trained to fight? And it's interesting because we get the sense that this isn't something that he sees as an issue or as being wrong, and he's the king's son. So is Arik sympathetic to the cause? Apparently, it depends on where the marked ones were fostered. And once Xaden was doing really well at Bisgayeth, some families decided to stop training.
The prejudices in the society are rough against the poor little marked ones. Poor baby kids.
They're poor baby kids.
It just like gave me the ick. Like, they literally saw that these people were doing well and were like, oh, let's just cut their legs out from under them. Give them no chance at survival.
Remember, there was that conversation with Liam and Violet after one of their runs to the archives. And Liam was explaining how they're conscripted to the Riders Quadrant. And he said some people think that it was to give us like a chance to prove ourselves or something like that. And he goes, others think it was a way to kill us off.
Well,
this kind of leans us in the direction of it was to kill them.
Yeah. Then Riddick sneaks up on Violet.
Yeah.
And her reaction, poor girl, is like she just doesn't know who's coming and attacks him and almost slits his throat.
Yeah, this is further evidence of her heightened state of anxiety because of the attacks.
I just like can't imagine living on edge like that.
I know.
All hours of...
It's exhausting.
It is exhausting.
Like, I know this is like really stupid, but like just having like a wound is very tiring.
Yeah.
So I can't imagine like
constantly
being, Violet also, before Riddick comes and scares her, lets it slip to Imogen that she knows that Sloane's first challenge is on Monday and that she'll have to do something about it. So,
and Imogen just like doesn't ask questions, which I kind of liked. She's just like, how do you know that? And then she's like, okay.
She's like, I respect people's privacy.
Yeah.
Like, you know what? Good for you, Imogen. Yeah. I am a sneaky, sneaky little snoop. I would hound her until she told me.
Yeah. What do you mean? What do you mean?
What book? Where's the board?
Yeah. And then they are heading back to their dorms. Bags are thrown over their heads and lights out.
Yeah. Awards.
Most romantic?
If they knew what really happened, they wouldn't leave my side. You'd be safer, but they wouldn't be. The conversation between Violet and Imogen.
Mine was, I can feel this draining you. I'll come. And Dunner starts. You'll do no such thing, or you risk every feather tail in the veil. I remind her. Do you want someone who takes joy in the pain of others like Varrish bonding a hatchling? Violet sacrificing.
Her protecting it. Yeah.
Protecting for the good of dragonkind.
Love that.
Funniest? No funniest.
No funniest.
Unfortunately. Spiciest?
You wish you were my type. I'm phenomenal in bed.
That was a good line.
Yeah.
I put a sassy. Humans do not command dragons, and that includes you.
Ooh.
Chapter 14. In their first land navigation trial, riders are thrown into the forest with infantry, healers, and a scribe. The riders and infantry butt heads the entire way before running into the real ruler of this realm, a dragon. Panic ensues, and one of the students meets a crispy end.
That is so brutal.
That's what happens.
No, I know. The pre-chapter blurb comes from Major Varrish's Guide to the Rider's Quadrant, Unauthorized Edition, and it says, quote, "There is a natural distrust that must be overcome between infantry cadets and riders. This exists mainly because riders will never trust that infantry has the courage to hold the line when dragons arrive, and infantry will never trust that the dragons won't eat them."
You know something is about to go down.
I have to say, I did not like this chapter. This chapter made me very annoyed.
Okay.
I know that riders need to be somewhat arrogant and like confident, but I found that this was on another level, and it like obviously the moral of the chapter goes to show that the arrogance was like to their own detriment, but like I just found it really annoying to read.
Yeah, they were very above everyone else. It goes with the arrogance we've seen demonstrated,
No,
but
I know.
it usually doesn't stem from Violet and her clique. So to see it come from them is like, oh.
Exactly.
So I hear ya.
I saw a side of Riddick that I could never see again.
Okay.
Violet and the gang wake up and they realize that this is one of the RSC tests. And the timing could not be worse because Xaden and Sigale are meant to arrive tomorrow.
Basically, when Violet has that realization right away, she's like, just go without me and I'm going to deal with this and whatever. And then the professor hands everyone a water skin and they all take a drink. And it turns out these things are drugged.
And I have a hard time believing that Violet, queen of poisons, drank this water that she full on notices tasted weird and chalks it up to the water skins not being clean.
Very good point.
Also, like, okay, you take a sip of it, you're like, oh, that's weird. You don't keep drinking it.
I know.
You put it aside.
I know. That's the part I found weird. Like, are you so thirsty that you just needed to chug the earthy tasting water?
Ugh. So this is the first joint land navigation exercise, and we are putting our map reading skills to the test, and the group is made up of a realistic combination, like Lily said in her synopsis, of riders, healers, and scribes. The goal is to find the location marked on the map and secure it, then they'll be extracted. Let me tell you, I was so stressed because I'm like, we need to figure our shit out and go see our boyfriend.
Yeah. I was actually like, I liked this as a concept.
Me
like,
too.
I thought it was great. I was like, yeah, they should learn to work with other people. Like,
Absolutely.
they're not always just going to be with writers. And it's the first time we actually get to see the school interact. Like, we've seen a couple scribes, but we haven't seen anyone else. So it's just like, it was,
This
in
is good pedagogy.
Yeah, in theory, a great practice. And it just didn't go well.
Yeah. Remember in episode 1, I was talking about how there's a benefit to diversity and inclusion because it brings together different like perspectives and experiences. Well, this is another great example. On top of that, Professor Grady fully tells the riders that the infantry cadets like spend a lot of time doing land navigation. And yet the riders are like, we got this. Like, give us the map.
It was like have you ever done an escape room?
Yes.
So it's very much like an escape room gone wrong. Like, nobody communicated.
Yeah.
They were given 2 maps and didn't even take a second to like compare the 2, realizing they were different. Like, it was just, escape room gone wrong.
Then we find out that they will be extracted tomorrow afternoon. So they will likely be missing Xaden and Sigale. And in order to even the playing field, since the infantrymen have been, like I said before, doing land nav since their first year, the riders have lost connections to their dragons. Thank you, Captain Obvious. It's the stupid thing of water that they all drank. So that means they can't use their signet. So they have basically like no advantage. And you know what? Like, this would be the time, my rider friends, to just humble yourself and be like, okay, so not only do I not have the thing that gives me power and strength, I don't know how to do this. Like, this is our first land navigation exercise, but I'm going to still take control.
All they have is their fighting skills and their knowledge of dragons, which, like, in a forest,
not helpful.
Like, where are you going to go with that?
Yeah.
You know, it's kind of silly. Then Grady reveals that there are 2 groups in the exercise.
Yeah.
And each other's dragons will be hunting the other group.
Yeah.
Which is terrifying.
Plus, some unbonded.
It just feels insane.
This is like some Hunger Games shit.
And why did the dragons agree to this?
Yeah.
I had noted Triwizard Cup, but sure.
Triwizard was just a competition.
Yeah.
There's an element of mortal peril involved.
I mean, so did the Triwizard, though, but yeah.
Well,
Well, the dragons could have killed them.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
The mermaids could have killed them.
I don't think they would have let them die.
Oh, really?
Maybe.
I don't know. I don't trust, I don't know.
The Ministry of Magic?
Yeah. But yes, it's very Hunger Games.
As I was reading this, I was like, this is giving us against each other instead of us against the problem, which is something that, like, whenever, you know, Justin and I are in, like, a stressful situation or whatever, and, like, things are getting heated, we have to remind ourselves it is us against the problem.
Yeah.
Not us against each other.
Great way to think about it.
There's a little bit of communication between the group explaining how the scribe quadrant works, but notice that no one asks anyone else how their education is organized. Like, we know that the scribes have, like, different degrees.
But they do. One of the infantry soldiers turn to the riders and say, like, oh, you guys work in, I think it was sections. So there's
and they explain,
yeah.
But it's all about the riders. It's not about anyone else.
Yeah.
Like, it shows a...
Arrogance.
Yes, but I was going to say, like, a lack of interest, intellectual interest on the riders' side. The riders teach the group how to behave if they come across a dragon. And I found this really sweet. As they're walking, Riddick studies Violet and inquires about her wrapped joints. And it's just a nice, quiet moment in what is otherwise a stressful situation. Then there's more conflict between Rhiannon and Calvin, an infantryman. And this is where I started to get really uncomfortable because there's no respect. Like, it's one thing to be arrogant, but it's another thing to literally have disdain for the other. Like, the infantry respect rank, and the riders, like, sort of do, but, like, they don't really. Like, anarchy is kind of allowed in the riders quadrant. I usually love Riddick and his sense of humor and everything, but I absolutely hated him in this chapter. We got a bit of his arrogance in Battle Brief when he was saying, like, oh, we're superior or whatever, but, like, that was harmless. Like, but he did have me when he said, you want my respect, earn it. Cross the parapet, climb the gauntlet, survive threshing, and then we'll be on equal footing. Like, I understand.
Yeah, but like you just said, they don't actually know what the infantry do. So it's like they're going into it just assuming that their road and path is so much mightier.
Well, the riders quadrant definitely does experience the most, like, death. So maybe that's from that fact alone. At the school, yeah.
But then they talk about how in life it's reversed because the infantry are the front lines. They tend to go into death way faster out in the world.
Yeah, for sure. Sawyer also jumps in saying, quote, she bonded not only one of the biggest fucking dragons on the continent, but a second dragon, and then went into combat against the Griffins a couple of months ago and came out alive. You go through that kind of shit in your quadrant? Question mark?
Oh, yes, she did. Yeah, there's just a lot of butting heads. Like you said, it's kind of uncomfortable. So.
Yeah. After having taken a look at both maps, the group realizes they've been given 2 maps.
Yeah.
Didn't see that one coming.
And just as they're having that realization, they're crossing over a hill. And what's on the other side of the hill? Barlow's old scorpion tail.
Bade.
Couldn't have been any other dragon. It had to be Barlow.
Had to be the one that hates Violet the most.
Yeah. So they all kind of take formation, and the riders instruct everyone else to be still, keep their eyes down. But then, of course, one of them freaks out and starts running. But then what happens is, like, really, really sad. Because another one of her schoolmates runs after her and, like, grabs her, yanks her, throws her to the ground, essentially to save her. And he's the one that gets blasted.
I know. What redeemed this chapter for me was when they were face-to-face with Bade, Rhiannon was like, riders take the front, protect everyone else, like, everyone follow our lead. It sucks that his name was Tomas, that Tomas got killed protecting, I think her name was Gwen.
Yes,
Gwen. She was an infantry soldier. But, like, I also think that it's quote-unquote right that he be the one to make that sacrifice because this is, like, their field. This is their area of expertise, which is, like, the dragons. Like, they signed up for entering a quadrant where you could die, whereas, like, the infantrymen and the healers and the scribes, like, they are promised just an education, whereas the riders are, like, they enter the situation with, you know, open eyes. They know that there's constantly a risk to their life, so it makes sense that the person that's going to risk their life and lose their life is the rider and not anyone else.
I guess. So you're saying he did that knowing he would save her but die?
I don't think that he knew that, but I know that he knew that it was a possibility. The fact that Rhiannon told all of them, like, protect everyone else, like, take the... I think that kind of insinuates.
Yeah, he made his choice.
Yeah.
And then Rhiannon ends the chapter saying, and that's why you don't fucking run. Awards.
Yeah.
Most romantic line. I just like the way the riders all... Oh, it's not a line. It's what I wrote. I just like the way the riders all had each other's back against Calvin. And, like, supported Violet.
Mine was when Riddick asks about whether her knees are wrapped.
I like that. Funniest.
First we choose a sacrifice, then we offer it and run.
Me too.
That's a Riddick line.
Riddick with his little jokes.
He redeems himself, every now and then.
Yeah. Well, he's usually the funny guy.
He
But
is
yeah,
usually
you're
the
right.
funny
He kind
guy.
of sucked in this chapter. Spiciest. It's kind of what you read before, what Sawyer says about Violet.
Okay.
Everything
Mine
she's
was the Riddick line just before about you want my respect, earn it.
Well, there you go.
Yeah, it's very
Both lines
aligned.
go hand in hand.
Yeah.
Chapter 15. The group is still lost in the wilderness, tired and frustrated by their circumstance. The professors come to collect them, just as disappointed in the outcome. The cadets are left to ponder the strange happenings this year at Basgaeth. Between the secrets, the intensified control over students, and the assassination attempts, what is really at play here?
The pre-chapter blurb comes from page 96 of the Book of Brennan, and it says, quote, "There's a course second year that I can't tell you about, other than to say that it's hell. My only advice, don't piss off anyone else's dragon." Too late!
Yeah. It's funny because last week I was saying, like, how is this course? Like, no one's even mentioned it. So I was like, Brennan did mention it in his book. But that's kind of what I was saying. Like, even if they didn't tell them directly, like, little nuggets like this would exist. So I feel like there would be some sort of knowledge or expectation that something is coming, whether they knew it was RSC. Anyway, let's get into it.
Okay. So it's now the end of the next day, and it's clear the gang failed because they all refused to work together. Mm-hmm. And they're still no closer to figuring things out.
They're questioning, like, how long is the school going to leave us out here? Because they've not given up, but there's a feeling of giving up. And then one of the cadets actually brings Violet food. And then Rhiannon orders Violet to get some rest while she keeps watch. And she also, just before Violet, like, I guess, settles in, she calls out Violet for the way she's been avoiding everyone. Mm-hmm. And again, they have like a really nice, not nice exchange, but I just like what Rhiannon says. She says, "If you're not ready to talk, to tell me what's going on with you, I want you to know it's all right. I'll be here when you're ready because your friendship is precious to me. But please, for the sake of our friendship, don't insult me by lying." So it's like, she knows, she sees through it all. And
Yeah.
I just thought it was a nice little like reinforcement of like, don't dick me around. We're going to be okay. I'm here when you're ready.
Yeah, but she starts to lose her patience as this chapter wears on.
I mean, it's fair. It's kind of hard to be pushed away. You can only be pushed away so many times before you crack,
Riddick also seems to have been served a piece of humble pie because he acknowledges that the infantry are better at land nav than the riders, and they also caught them food. So can you imagine, like, the riders were talking down to the infantrymen the whole time. Mm-hmm. They were acting all high and mighty, but the infantrymen were still like, you know what? We're going to make a fire. We're going to catch some rabbit. We're going to cook some rabbit. And you are going to have food in your belly tonight.
Yeah. Like, what would the riders have done?
Starved. Eating each other.
It's just crazy to think that they haven't been given any of this education. Like, does it come in third year? Like, they need to know this stuff, too.
No, they don't, because they're going to rely on the infantry.
Riders are never alone out there?
I don't know.
It just feels crazy. They serve a different task, but it's still a military training. Like, and that should just be part of it. I don't know. Pretty crazy.
Well, maybe that's what the rest of RSC is for. I don't know.
Anyway. It's the next morning. The professors arrive in carriages, and they're like super disappointed in everyone because they have failed their training. And then the cadets are given a tincture, so their bond with the dragons is restored.
But again, like, they're drinking unknown liquid again.
I mean, it kind of just shows at this point just like how much power and control the school and the hierarchy has over them. They give them a bottle of drink, they drink.
Yeah.
They drink.
Yeah.
Like, they're like, sorry, we took your powers away. I mean, they start to question it a bit here.
Yeah.
But it just like, this whole exercise really just reinforces how expendable they are, and also just how much control they have over them.
You're right. These are very astute observations.
I think Sawyer he points it out. He's like, they took away our bonds like it was nothing.
Yeah.
Like, that's terrifying.
The riders say goodbye to the infantrymen, and they fly off on their dragons, and this is when Taryn also informs Violet that this whole thing is a new development this year. So this is not the typical experience of a second year in RSC.
Right.
So it's kind of like what you were saying before, like everything's kind of getting leveled up this year with the harshness of punishment, with Varrish being there, with RSC being taken to a whole new level. Also, yeah, what Rhiannon was saying about the infirmary. Taryn says, though, which is so terrifying and stressful, and I just cannot imagine. He says that he could hear her and sense her, but she couldn't reply.
Scary.
Yeah.
It's like worse.
Yeah.
Taryn arrives, and Violet right away is like, did you get to see Sigale? Because like, obviously that's what she cares about the most, and he did for a few hours, which is nice.
Yeah.
But then Violet's like super sad that she didn't get to see Xaden.
Yeah.
Because they're gone already. And I'm a little sad too.
Well, I just thought it was so sweet that, so Taryn, he's like, yeah, I did get to see Sigale, but only for a couple hours because I wasn't willing to be out of range for much longer. And I'm just like, oh, Taryn.
Yeah. As strong as his bond is with Sigale, you could also see how
strong it is.
Violet and his bond is.
So yeah, Taryn's like, don't worry, we'll see them in a week. And ominously,
oh my God.
Violet's like, my instincts tell me we won't.
What do you mean, Violet?
What a terrible place to end.
It was a terrible place to end. I was like losing my mind. I was like, what do you mean? I was Jennifer Lawrence's meme.
Every time you act like that, like anytime you say, what do you mean several times, that's all I see. Yeah.
I was freaking out. I did not do well with awards. It was a very short chapter.
Yeah.
I don't have much to give.
I have a romantic line, which is, I'll be here when you're ready because your friendship is precious to me, but please, for the sake of that friendship, don't insult me by lying.
Yeah, that was mine as well, but I don't have awards for the other two.
I don't have a funniest, but my spiciest is Violet talking about Professor Grady, saying he's disappointed, but Tomas is dead. Like showing that dichotomy between emotions. So that's kind of it.
That's it. I mean, ending on a line like that, I just want to keep reading.
Yeah. Thank you so much for listening. Please rate this podcast and leave us a review. It'll help other people find us. If you haven't already, we really encourage you to set new episodes to download so that you're sure to be up to date. Yes. And we'd really appreciate it if you shared what you're listening to on your stories. Just spread the word. We're really enjoying watching this podcast and this community grow, and we just want it to grow even more, because if you like our show, odds are your friends will too. By the way, if you're interested in supporting our podcast, we've got our Amazon storefront. We still have our promo code with Smoke Show. They've got hot sauce, they've got spice blends, they've got ton of stuff. Really great website. Go check it out. BBB15. You can follow us on Instagram at Book Bound Pod and on TikTok at Book Bound Besties. Tag us in literally anything. Yeah. Theories, other fourth wing content. We love that kind of stuff. Yeah. Please. We just want to make this as interactive as possible. We want to bring you the kind of content that you're interested in. So the more interaction, the better, in our opinion. And if you have any questions, comments, or feedback, please email us at bookboundpod@gmail.com. Let's get to reading.